You're listening to Women in Wellness, a program to help you create gorgeous growth for your blissful business in health and wellness. I'm Dr. Gabby, holistic health expert and founder of Women in Wellness, a one-of-a-kind course and community designed to empower and inform you about how to build a purposeful and profitable holistic business. And we have an awesome guest with us today. We have Danna Pycher. Danna is a certified neuro-linguistic hypnotherapy coach and motivational speaker. And I'm glad I got all of those words out in one sentence. I know, Danna, that you've been on a long journey and you've had a compelling story about how and why you got into the work that you're doing. And for the listeners who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about that experience so that they can get to know you?
Yes. So hi, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here and super excited. So it has been a bit of a journey, and every day the journey gets a bit more interesting. Yet the seed of the journey began. I never thought I'd be a hypnotist ever. Was never in my line of vision. Was never. It was very. It's a very abstract thing to think of. And every hypnotist I know actually is not born. This is not something you're born wanting to do necessarily. So my story goes that nearly 6 years ago, more than 6 years ago now, I was nearly killed in a car accident. I was smashed from head to toe. I had to learn how to walk and talk again. It was very devastating. And I was effectively a different person, of course, after my accident, and knowing very deep down inside that I was not going to accept this new reality of broken, not only physically, yet mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually speaking, it was just not going to happen for me. So I had this goal, and a very stubborn goal, to realize and go back to who I was, and there was nothing that was going to stop me. That being said, it was not that easy to find necessarily how to get back to being normal again. So I was seeing a normal therapist, and effectively speaking, she was very nice. I connected with her very deeply. Yet that being said, talking about my accident, I clearly knew everything that happened, detail by detail. I went a little bit unconscious, but in general, I know what happened. So talking about it wasn't really doing anything for me. And I left that therapist just really wanting to look for someone a little bit more intellectual. And not to say it like that, but I just felt like, I was a little bit running circles around this woman, and I just wanted someone that's a bit ahead of what was happening. So I met a woman who survived cancer, and she said that she would not be alive were it not for this trauma therapist. So I went to see this woman, and the first thing she said to me is, "I'm a bit different. Are you okay with that?" And I said, "Whatever." And she said, "I do this thing called hypnosis." And I said, "Okay, anything and everything except for that. That's definitely not happening." Yeah.
What was your perception at that time of what she was, when she said hypnosis? What was the first thing that you thought of?
Well, it's kind of shocking because I didn't seek her out for that. Had I known she was a hypnotist, or specialized in hypnosis, I probably would have not have gone to her. It was just something that, like a lot of clients that come to me, they have this perception of kind of voodoo or magic, or, getting into your brain in a way that you don't, know what's happening. So yeah, I was a bit shocked and repelled. It was not happening for me. So eventually, after getting to know her for a little bit and really liking her and thinking she's very intelligent, very forward thinking, what's the worst that can happen? So I did it. And within the first session, I left feeling better very quickly. Basically within a month and a half, all of my PTSD was gone. The next month, my depression, and the next month, my anxiety. So very quickly, she just, cleaned me up, and I owe her my life. So that's the beginning of the story. And then the story has many iterations since then. And
you were working at that time in a totally different industry, right?
Yes. I was working as a journalist. I was in broadcasting since I was 15 years old. I never thought I'd be doing something else. I mean, actually, I used to want to be on Broadway, but that's another story. That's like my baby dream. Because I love to sing, I love to perform, and I love, the theater. But yeah, I was a journalist. I loved health reporting. I was always intrigued by health and the mind and stuff like that. But I never really thought I would be doing anything other than reporting and producing. That's what I did. So that was an interesting shift from going to being employed to jumping not only into the realm of hypnosis, which is abstract, not to me anymore. I think it's very normal. And also not only just doing that, but then becoming a full-on entrepreneur. And
when did you decide, I'm going to do this, I'm going to study this, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to teach this?
Mm-hmm. So that's another little interesting story. I had a friend who went to a hypnotist to quit smoking. This was about a year after my experience with this trauma therapist. So she went, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Cool. I was like, I have this, story with hypnosis too. I was like, let me know how you like it. So she quit smoking, and then she kept going to the same guy. And I was like, why are you going? You quit smoking. And she's like, well, he's kind of helping me get over this relationship. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So at that time, I also was feeling a little bit stuck in my life. So I was like, who's this person? So I went to him, and he was actually my first mentor. And I went to him, and I saw him for like 2 or 3 times. And I said to him afterwards, I was like, are you a therapist? Like, what's the deal? He's like, no, I'm only a hypnotist. I do hypnosis. That's what I do. And I was like, but then how are you working on these other topics? I thought hypnotists can only help you quit smoking. He's like, actually, no. He's like, hypnotists can do every and any human issue. We don't counsel. We do hypnosis. And I was like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. No questions asked. This is what I want to do. And he really opened the door for me. He's like, if you get trained, he's like, we're opening up another office in December, and you're more than welcome to join our practice. So that's how I started. Nice. So I began, and I haven't looked back since.
Awesome. And what was it like when you started to actually guide other people through the process?
So it was interesting. My first training was there's so many interesting stories, so we're going to focus. My first training was very intensive. And the first person I actually had a session with was one of the people I was training with. And I can tell you, he was probably, even to this day, one of the most shocking cases I've ever worked with. He set the bar for like, wow, if I can do this, everything else is so minimal. So it was kind of an interesting way to approach and to begin, because and first of all, I'm a product of this work. So I entered it fearless. Like, I knew this worked. There's not a drop even in my mind ever. I don't ever have a lack of confidence or conviction about that this will work. So maybe it's not the best tool for you specifically, but if you allow the brain to work the way it works, like this is the way the brain works, then you're going to see, if not full relief, you're going to see some relief. So the first person I worked with in my training was a bit of an interesting experience. But then, getting your first client is also another thing. So yeah, when I had my first client, it was definitely intimidating, because you second guess yourself. Do you know this? Can you do this? And I just jumped in kind of blindly. I was like, yep, I'm doing this.
Can you tell us any more about the first experience, like the guy in the training? Can you tell us any more about what that was like?
Oh my goodness. You don't even want to know.
Okay.
I don't know if I make this public or not. I'll tell you a little snippet, because there's a lot of different things that came up in that. I took him into a past life regression. And another part of what I do is I'm a public speaker. I speak all over the country. And I began speaking for Holocaust studies, because I'm a 3rd generation descendant. And I started speaking to high schoolers and different organizations about tolerance. And that's kind of the way my platform began, with speaking. And now over time, people would come to my speaking engagements because they'd see that I was a hypnotist. So they became curious. And then they started requesting that I speak about the mind and trauma and kind of how the interesting way the mind works. So he, wow, there's so many interesting ways we can go with this. He was in a past life, and I've seen this many times since. He was a Nazi, and it hit home very hard, because this is the first time I ever worked with someone. And I had that history, and I started crying after that first session.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was like, is this real? And he had a full amazing healing afterwards, and I had a healing. Because what I realized was it really kind of felt karmic. I was like,
Wow.
this is my first experience of healing someone, is going into this type of past life. And I don't know if that's like too much to expose.
No, it's very powerful. I have chills all over. That's so powerful. It's really powerful.
I mean, looking back, there's other little nuances for his healing, but just that's like kind of
so powerful.
What I can share. Yeah. So I was this little Jewish girl that has this history, healing that piece of history.
Yeah.
So it blew my mind. So after that, I was like, wow, if that doesn't prepare you for anyone and anything, it's kind of cool.
That's
really,
so cool. That's so cool. And you've been focusing mostly on trauma, right? In your practice and helping people with trauma over the years?
Yeah. I mean, even this morning I was working with someone that trauma doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard. It really, even if it happened 60 years ago, or even if it's multiple traumas, it doesn't have to be hard to get over it. You don't have to spend 75 years in psychoanalysis analyzing every little bit of things that happen to you in life. In reality, you just kind of shift gears, and it's that simple. It's complex and simple, but I love working with trauma. Actually, my specialty is trauma and disease, and the way trauma comes up in the body. And by dissipating earlier traumas, your body, your nervous system kind of sometimes gets short-circuited. It gets stuck in that feeling of, I need to be on edge to protect myself. So that feeling of on edge is trauma-based. Once you clear that trauma, then all the other little pieces of physical stuff that's happening can find potentially, and a lot of times, I see miracles happen every day, but you know, not to put it out there so in such a big way, but in reality, your body can relax and find its way back to normalcy.
Nice. And a lot of the people that are listening to this, they're working in the health and wellness space in some capacity. No, the reason I bring it up is because you've now had success as a speaker and a writer and private practice, and you're moving into the online space. So can you share anything that you're sort of learning from the entrepreneurial perspective about, like, you know, what is your advice to an aspiring, you know, hypnotherapist or an aspiring healer? Like, what is your advice to them about doing this kind of work in terms of the technical, the self-care, the, you know, building the relationships with clients? Is there anything that comes to mind that you think is important for them to know? Awesome
question. My favorite thing when I talk to healers, because it's funny, I get that question a lot from healers. They're like, you're such a good businesswoman. I'm like, really? Thanks. You know, but what it is healers can have many different aspects of what they're actually doing that is actually helping, you know, help someone. But in reality, focus is the biggest thing, because, and really sharp messaging. So for example, I do hypnosis as my base, but there's so many other things I've learned. I've learned like Qigong, I've learned Chinese medicine, I've learned Kabbalistic energy healing, I've learned all these metaphysical tools. But in reality, when people come knocking on my door, it's because it's a blanket statement. I'm a hypnotist that specializes in trauma and disease. You know exactly why you're looking for me. So I don't have this messaging that's so, oh my God, I do this, but I do this, I do 15 things, and I'm really sprinkling a little bit of this in my, no. Let people know why they want to find you. That's it. Simple. Simplicity, focus, and stamina.
And how do you maintain stamina?
Woo! That's what I'm learning. So I think,
is it about boundaries? Is it about taking time for yourself? Is it about food? Is it about having other healers work on you?
Oh yeah. Okay. So that's great too. So stamina, I think when you're a healer, it's such a deep thing. It's not really a business, you know, and that's the disconnect. People are like, well, I'm so, you know, can help this person. They can't pay me for this because they need it. They need it. No. They might need it, but my father actually has slapped me in the face. I've had a little bit of slaps in the face along the way, but he told me very early on when I was having difficulty charging people, because I was like, they are in trauma. They don't feel good and I can help them. And oh my goodness, if I don't help them, who will? And he's like, well, if you don't get paid, you're not going to eat. If you don't get paid, there will not be a roof over your head. So if you don't eat and there's no roof over your head, you are not helping anyone. So that is clear boundaries. That is knowing your value. And that is really being firm about the fact that it's like any other industry. You're not in this for a hobby. This is a business. So treat it like a business. And so that being said, stamina, what I've recently learned. So I used to be able to see 8 clients a day, one after the other, and I'd left energized. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I love this. Every day, 8 clients a day. Now, I've realized, and I've been doing this for a number of years now, and the stories haven't changed, but my sensitivities have changed and my boundaries have had to change because just my circumstances in life have changed. So I have to create that energy again. So what does that mean? Yeah, 100%. You have to find people that support you. You really have to find a community of people that support you. You really, really have to find momentum. And if that momentum means, you know, I stopped working. I used to work 6 days a week. I only work 4 days a week now. Period. The end. I'm not going to work Friday through Sunday because I need time to recharge.
And I love that you mentioned community, because obviously I'm obsessed with creating community.
Yeah.
and you hang out in my community. What can you say a little bit more about what kind of value you get personally from
Yes.
being part of conversations or getting that support? Like, how does that serve you?
100%. Well, first of all, you have to have like-minded people. So I spent a lot of years thinking after my accident, I'm different now, I'm weird, I'm bizarre, I have this new information that I can't share with the old people I used to hang out with. So now that I have this community, and also your community specifically, because I'm part of other communities, but when you're part of a community that really is wellness oriented, I don't have to explain myself so much. Like, oh yeah, that's how that works, of course. You know, it's some people that are not familiar with the way, kind of the intricacies of maybe the way the mind and body work together. I might spend a half an hour being like, this is why I'm sick of that. I like being around people that get it. And not only do they get it, they're a resource for me. Because I'm shifting into the online world. So I've actually been doing individual Skype clients for a number of years now, because I moved abroad and I wanted to maintain my business. And so 50% of my clientele is now online, but I want to shift into more of the group online, kind of one-to-many, because I don't have enough time to see all the people that want to see me. So that's been very stretching my brain as to how to provide the same type of product, same type of service. And really being part of your community, I'm able to just listen to other women that have doing this for 30 years. So I'm happier to listen than to talk.
Yeah. Tell us, I know, cause I know you, a little bit about the vision of reaching the masses. Tell us a little bit about what that vision is and what you think is possible for taking your work online to the masses.
So, okay, that has been so interesting, because when I work with people with disease or even addictions, I developed a strategy. I have this kind of methodology that I have been doing for a little while now, that people that are these individual puzzles that they come to me, but you're still human. All of humans, whether we like it or we don't, we have the same emotional responses. We're not that complicated. We're individuals. So people have individual stories, individual lives, yet the underlying components that are really stressing us out and bothering us and creating ailments are across the board potentially similar. So again, your mechanisms are different, but the general, the meat is potentially the same. So I've been racking my brain to try to create these courses that are deeply healing. They're not just like these little it's so funny. So we've been doing it for the past couple months, and people have been telling me, they're like, I had no expectations, no clue that you kind of have to be courageous to do this. Some of the comments that I've been getting from people is they have to be courageous to go through this, because there's people that buy courses and they do it. And there's like a little mindset shift. It's kind of like you meditate a little bit and then, you figure out a little bit of this. They're like, no, my life has changed. My life has changed. Now what? So now I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I do? So that's been the finesse of how do I create these products where I'm still kind of not holding their hand, but nurturing them. Not saying, okay, so you want to stop your emotional eating, here's hypnosis and be on your way. Because that's not effective either. Even though the hypnosis will stop their emotional eating, their sugar addiction, one of the hypnosis parts of that kind of package, will stop your sugar addiction. It will. But one of the comments that I got from one of the participants in that group was like, okay, so I quit sugar. I'm really like curbing the emotional eating, but I never ate healthy in my life. So like, I don't know what to do now. So, you know what I'm saying? So like that feedback is essential. So I created a hypnosis of maintaining healthy foods.
Perfect.
Feedback. You know what I'm saying? So yes. It's been really cool. So my new thing is creating these courses that are life-changing, deeply transformational, that you can do on your own.
Right. Right. And I love what you said, which is the listening. I hear a lot from other women that I interview. You have to listen to what people need. You have to meet that need. That's how you continue to serve them. And that's like a lot of the work that we do is that listening. And unfortunately, we are getting down towards the end of our time. So I know you've created some of this, some of these
programs. Forever. Okay, fine.
And I want people to hear from you how they can participate. I know that you did one around food and weight loss and sugar. I know you're doing another one around emotion and anxiety and anger and depression and stuff like that. So if people want to engage in this, if they want to find you and connect, how can they do that?
Yeah, that'd be great. So first there's my website. So it's dannapycher.com. That's DANNAPYCHER.com. My business is now called Transformation Clinic. And the idea is you come through and you do have a transformation. And those are the first two group offerings that we have, and they are online. So you can either, when you visit my website, you can either find out a bit more information with me if you want to work with me as an individual, private coaching and hypnosis, or there's another track of literally just going through the course and doing the self-studies. So you can find those both there. And yeah, you can email me. You can find my email on my website. And you
also have a very, very popular TED Talk. So they can watch that TED Talk on your website. It's on the website, and they can hear more about your story and learn a little bit more about your experience as well there.
Yes, that TED Talk was really interesting. That's a whole nother story is how that happened, but I'm not going to get into that now, time permitting. But that being said, really that I wasn't going to mention the night before, I wasn't going to mention the fact that I had a chronic illness. My mom was like, are you sure you want to tell like millions of people that you have, chronic illness? And I was going to take it out last minute, but the fact that I left it in there, I get so many emails daily, even just to the extent of, I'm the first person, they've been to 17 doctors, they've been to this, whatever. I am the first person in years that has given them a spark of hope.
Oh, it's so great.
Yeah. So that's been a gift.
Yeah. And you're a gift. And thank you for hanging out with us and telling us a little bit about your story and your practice. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. You can join the Women in Wellness Club at women-in-wellness.com.